was contracted directly from Children's Television Workshop to develop Sesame Street characters. So each country, and they still do this to this day, has unique puppet characters that are supposed to be kind of tied to that culture or that country. So maybe instead of having, Big Bird and Oscar, they would have a bear. In Germany, I think it's a bear and a bird. And they play similar kind of roles. Like the big bear is a big goofy bear, kind of like Big Bird is acting as a 3-year-old or whatever. And then, the bird might not be like Oscar, but would be cantankerous in a different way or something.
Are there none that are universal? Are they
No, they are universal. They still use the stuff from New York that they shoot in New York. They use all the characters that they shoot in New York, but they add local actors and local... because to dub in the American actors or performers just wouldn't work. But to dub in puppets is much easier because you can lip sync, and it's easier and it flows better. So, well, I actually got to take 3 weeks off, which was nice. And then I came back to New York and started working on Fraggle Rock. And I did traveling mat for Fraggle Rock and all the radio-controlled singing Fraggles in the background. So they would set up, let's say 25 puppets in the background. They were all manipulated by maybe 2 or 3 puppeteers with a computer-controlled unit. And so they would lip sync in sequence. Or is it in sequence? Or so it would all be the same timing. And the radio-controlled puppets were really hard to build because the radio control unit itself was very sensitive to weight and balance. So we had to make them out of really thin fleece fabric, not like the regular Muppet fleece, which was kind of heavy. And we'd have to be very careful where we placed their eyes on their head, because if they were too far forward, the whole head would just drop and chatter, like this. It would just look terrible. So Jane Gutnick and I worked on those, and it was frustrating. I don't think I've ever even seen them all, because when Fraggle Rock came out, it was on HBO, and it was at the very beginning of HBO. And
that was on HBO?
Yeah, it started out on HBO, and nobody had cable. Very few people had cable at that time. So it's like people come up to me and they say, "Oh, did you work on this episode?" And I go, I don't think I've ever seen that episode. I don't think I've ever seen all of them. Even the Muppet Show, because when I was working in England, and I would build puppets for the Muppet Show, one of them I didn't see performed until recently. I found it on YouTube. I was like going, oh my God, that actually made it on the show. I never even knew it had gotten onto the show. It was funny. Jim and Frank had a chauffeur who would drive them to work from Hampstead to Elstree Studios every day. And he said he heard the best of the Muppets of anybody ever, because Jim and Frank would just, play Ernie and Bert when they would talk to each other, and they would make up all this silly, crazy stuff. And he said, the chauffeur told me once he was laughing so hard, he started crying, and he couldn't see where he was driving, and he had to pull off the road, to kind of just calm down and wipe his face, and then go back to driving. It was a great story about working on Great Jones Street. Because when I was there, it was still the Bowery, and it was awful. I mean, Great Jones Street was just the pits. It's like it was nothing but alcoholics and drug addicts. And one of the guys in the shop who created costumes for different off-Broadway shows, had gotten a contract to do an off-Broadway show that starred Divine, the transvestite. I don't know if you know who he was. He was like 350 pounds. He was in a lot of John Waters movies. Okay? Very outrageous character. And it was at night, and he came for a fitting for his costume. And he looked up, because the workshop was on 2 different levels, and they were downstairs sewing all the stuff. And he looked up, and we were building puppets for, I think, for one of the Sesame Street shows. And he's like, "What are you guys doing up there?" And we said, "Well, we're building some puppets for a TV show." He said, "Oh, I want to see them." And he came up, and he's like looking at everything, and he says to John Orberg, who was working there, he says, "Could you make me a new pair of tits?" And John says, "What?" He said, "You know the tits I have now?" He said, "They just don't move. They don't jump around. You know, they don't move with my body. They're too rigid." And so John said, "Yeah, I'll make them out of, Scott foam, and I'll put lead shot in them so they'll bounce." And he said, "That would be great, So John Orberg, made this Divine, these new pair of tits, and Divine comes back. And Divine's real hair was like 1/4 of an inch off his head, totally shock white, And he puts on this stretch tube. He's wearing tighty-whitey underwear. He puts on this stretch tube, right? And he takes these 2 breasts and puts them in and starts jumping around in front of the window that's overlooking Great Jones Street. And I look out the window, and across the street there's 2 winos sitting there looking up at the window like, what the heck is that? Because he didn't have a wig on or makeup or anything. And the one wino looks at the bottle, picks up the bottle, and looks at it and goes, and throws it across the street. And I started laughing. And Divine just like, "What is so funny?" Because he thought I was laughing at him. I said, no, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the wino across the street. And he goes, "What's so funny about that?" And then I had to explain the whole thing. He was so mad at me. And I was like, I never thought I would be terrified of a transvestite. He was terrifying.